Yeah, so just the one with your...
And center or sides? Do you guys care?
Whatever's easiest for you from where you're sitting.
Okay, perfect.
And then, I guess that side is not a good one. This side or that one. Yeah. And then the other thing is this mic is pretty directional and you have to be pretty close to it. So just kind of angle it towards you. If you got it like here, it's not picking me up, right? If you got it here, it is.
Okay, got it.
All right. Good. Thank you.
Our Yom Kippur service continues on page 138, page 138. As we start our service, if you have any cell phones or mobile equipment, please make sure they're turned off. On page 138, we continue our prayers.
Oh עליני באמת אישך מה טוב אוהביך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל מה טוב
The shofar points upwards to direct our hearts to heaven. Psalm 121 on page 140 similarly talks of looking up, of thinking beyond ourselves, of directing our eyes and thus our hearts to God. Our blessing before study can be found on page 142. Page 142. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Unetana Tokef, Holy Power, a love poem. We proclaim the holy power of this day, humble, exalted with awe this day. Our power to transform this day causes us to tremble. Source of all that was, is, and will be, source of all might and all that might be. Shofar's blast awakens the answers within the possibilities, within the whispers. You ask only that we listen. God, God of our ancestors, God of those who wrestle as our world struggles, strengthen us to return to love in defiance of fear. You turn us this day, turn flaw into merit and fear into awe. Despair becomes courage, distortion to clarity. Return us to this reality. May we ascend and transcend fear through love. May we inscribe for ourselves each next moment our life of verse in your poem of intention to live. Who shall live with kindness and who with humor? Who shall create beauty and who shall perceive wonder in unexpected places? Who shall radiate joy and who shall dance even in darkness? Whose wisdom shall be heard in whispers and whose anger move mountains? Who might we learn from and who might we teach? Power is within this holy day. Detritus disguising my soul releases tumultuous torrents and trickles of insight, inspiring, infusing, turning me inside out, empty of ego, raw, full of awe. My God, God of my generations, God who remembers, remind me this day of my essence, reveal to me my essence, enthuse me with ways to live all my days, each day with intention, each moment potential for connection. May this be my teshuvah, that fears and flaws turn me toward compassion. May works of tzedakah reflect abundance of gratitude, that I light someone's path, lift another's burden, listen with love. May this be my tefillah, that my words generate light and understanding, and may kindness leave my imprint on the moments of my life. I claim my power this day.
That study passage that Marlene read is one that she herself wrote. For those who are staying throughout the day, there will be study packs available for in-between services, and that will contain most of the High Holy Day liturgy that has been written by members over the last 3 years. And so after the morning service, we will distribute the abridged summaries of the sermons over the last 10 days. But for those who are staying, there will also be available these study packs of member liturgy that I really encourage you to explore. Our psalm for this morning is Psalm 150. We turn to page 170 for that psalm of praise.
Hallelujah.
facing page.
If our mouths were filled with the song as the sea, our tongues with music like the crash of ocean waves, our lips with praise endless as sky above, our eyes aglow like sun and moon, our arms reaching toward heaven like eagle's wings, our legs as graceful as the gazelle in flight, still our words of thanks to you would not suffice. Adonai, our God, and God of all ages, nor could we bless your name enough for your infinite acts of kindness to our ancestors and to us.
We turn to page 173. During our service, there is standing. I will always invite you to rise as you are able. If you are able to stand, please do so. If you need to rise in your seat, please do so. And so I invite you to rise as you are able on page 173. Hamelech Yoshev al kisei ram v'nisa shochen ad marom v'kadosh shomo v'chatuv rananu tzadikim badonai laisharim na'ava tehila b'fi yesharim titromam uv'divrei tzadikim titbarach uv'shon chasidim titkadash uv'kerev kadoshim tithala. By the mouths of the upright you are raised up, in the words of the righteous you are blessed. On the tongues of the pious you are sanctified. In the midst of the holy you are praised. Your people by the thousands sing to glorify your name. In all generations we give voice to your sovereignty. Chatzi Kaddish is page 176.
Vit Gadar, Shemei Rabbah. Ve'al Divera Hirute, V'amli Hamalkute. Shemei Dekudisha.
Page 178, we remain standing for Baruch Hu.
Oh
Please be seated. We continue on page 181.
Like an unbroken current, energy streams from the source, bathing the planet in light, calling forth life, movement, mind unfolding from matter, the power to love. And we offer it back to you, our own creative energy, ever dreaming, building, shaping patterns out of chaos, searching out light in the darkness. Creation never ceases, not for an instant. All life is aglow with your light. All things draw sustenance from the source. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzir Ha'marot. Our praise to you, Adonai, creator of the lights of heaven.
As we turn to page 186, on this, the Day of Atonement, we rise as we are able for Shema. Shema continues on page 188.
Ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'chatatam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha.
Page 191.
Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'tem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeit yetchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
Please be seated. We turn to page 194, and we read an introduction to Micha Mocha. From Egypt you redeemed us, Adonai our God, and from the slave house you set us free. For this the people who felt your love exalted you, and the ones you found precious sang hymns of praise, blessing and thanks to the living God who reigns forever. High and exalted, inspiring wonder, who humbles the proud and raises the lowly, who frees the captive, redeems the oppressed, and sustains the poor. God responds to the cry of our people, their prayer in time of need. Sing praise to God Most High, most blessed source of blessing, as Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang this song to you. page 198.
In the depths of the night, by the edge of the river, Jacob was left alone. In heartfelt longing, in the temple of God, Hannah uttered her prayer alone. In the barren wilderness, in doubt and despair, Elijah found God alone. On the holiest day, in the Holy of Holies, the high priest entered alone. We are bound to one another in myriad ways, but each soul needs time to find itself. In solitude we meet the solitary one. Silence makes space for the still small voice. For the psalmist says, "Deep calls unto deep," and from the depths of our soul we seek what is most profound.
We reach the extended tefillah, the extended Amidah. We invite you to rise as you are able. Adonai sefatai tiftach, ufi agid tehillatech.
Hoshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai. Magen Abraham, Bezrat Sarah. Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atarav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechavel Hayim Beresed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Novim Nirofem Morim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, B'Shem Yafar, Michamocha Ha'amurot, Melech David, Umechayem, U'Matzliach Yeshua, Michamocha. El harachamim, zocher yitzurav, l'chaim berachamim, b'ne'eman atah, l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai. Mechaye HaKol.
On page 207. 208. Our sovereign, God of pardon and forgiveness, let these words of sanctity ascend to you. Uvo shofar gadol yitaka. So a great shofar will cry tekiah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a world of fear and trembling will say, behold the day of judgment. For they too are judged. And in your eyes, even they are not blameless. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds. You decide destiny. You inscribe judgments. On page 214.
But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. We who are mortal, our origin is dust, and so is our end. We wear our lives to get our bread, like broken vessels, like withered grass, like a flower that must fade. A shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, mere dust on the wind, a dream that flies away. But for you, ever-living sovereign, time has no limits. Your presence, unbounded by days and years, is everywhere. A glorious mystery none can decipher. Your name is worthy of you, and you are worthy of your name. And our name you have linked with yours.
On page 218.
מקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היד לביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ, כבודו, אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, אדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיך, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי מציון, לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. לשבחך אלוהינו, ליבנו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד. כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה.
Page 228. You and you alone, Adonai, will reign over creation upon Mount Zion, home of your presence, and in Jerusalem, a city set apart by you. As the psalmist believed, the Eternal shall reign for all time, your God for all generations, Zion, hallelujah.
קדושתה ונורא שמך ואין אלוה מבלעדיך. Nikdash b'tzedaka Baruch atah Adonai. Hamelech, Hamelech, Hamelech HaKadosh.
On page 230, you chose us with love to be messengers of mitzvot, and through us you made known your aspirations. Among all the many peoples, you gave us a pathway to holiness. Among all the great nations, you uplifted us and made yourself our sovereign. And so we seek you and serve you to celebrate our nearness to your presence. Your great and sacred name has become our calling. In your love, eternal our God, you have given us this Yom Kippur, a day on which our wrongs are forgiven, a day of sacred assembly, a day to be mindful of our peoples going out from Egypt. Our God and God of the generations before us, may a memory of us ascend and come before you. May it be heard and seen by you, winning your favor and reaching your awareness. Together with the memory of our ancestors, the memory of your sacred city, Jerusalem, and the memory of your people, the family of Israel, may we be remembered for safety, well-being, and favor, for love and compassion, for life and for peace on this day of atonement. Zochreinu, Adonai Eloheinu, bo l'tova. Ufogdeinu vo livracha. V'hoshienu vo l'chayim. Uvidva Yeshua v'rachamim chus v'chaneinu. V'rachem aleinu v'hoshienu. Ki elecha einenu. Ki el melech chanun. V'rachum ata. And on 234. Eloheinu v'lehei avotenu v'imotenu. Machal la'avonotenu b'yom ha'kippurim hazeh. Our God and God of our forebears, pardon our failings on this day of atonement. Erase our misdeeds. See beyond our defiance. For Isaiah said in your name, it is I alone who wipe away your defiant acts. This is my essence. I shall pay no heed to your errors. And the prophet said, as a cloud fades away, as mist dissolves into air, so your wrongs and mistakes shall be gone. I will wipe them away. Come back to me that I may redeem you. As you said to Moses, Ki vayom hazeh yichaper aleichem letaheh etchem mikol chatotechem lifnei Adonai titharu. For on this day atonement shall be made for you, to purify you from all your wrongs, and pure you shall be in the presence of Adonai. On page 236.
God who is ours and God of our fathers and mothers, Lead us to holiness through your mitzvot. And may each of us find a portion of Torah that is ours. You bestow such goodness, teach us to be satisfied, and to know the joy of your salvation. Help us to serve you truly, with purity of heart. For you are the forgiver of Israel, in every generation granting pardon to the tribes of Yeshurun. We have no God of forgiveness and pardon but you alone. You are blessed, Adonai, sovereign who forgives our failings and pardons the failings of your people, the house of Israel. You banish our guilt from year to year. You reign in majesty over all the earth. You sanctify the people, Israel, and the day of atonement.
Amen. On 238, Eternal our God, your people Israel yearns for your favor. Receive their prayer with loving acceptance. And may you always desire your people's worship. Divine One, close to all who call upon you, bring your grace and presence near to those who serve you. Pour forth your Spirit on us, and may our eyes see your merciful return to Zion. Baruch atah Adonai, hamachazir shechinato letzion. On page 240.
God who is ours, God of all generations, to you we are grateful forever. Rock and protector of our lives, your saving power endures from age to age. We thank you and tell the tale of your praise, your power in our lives, your caring for our souls, the constant miracle of your kindness. Morning, noon, and night, we call you goodness, for your compassion never ends. We call you mercy, for your love has no limit. We call you hope, now and for all time. And for all these gifts, God of majesty, may your name come to be blessed and praised, our gratitude a daily offering until the end of time. Inscribe your covenant partners for a life of goodness. And may all life resound with gratitude and faith in praise of your name, God. You free us and strengthen us. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulcha na'eh lehadot. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose goodness deserves thanks and praise.
And on 244, Eloheinu v'Elahei avotenu v'imotenu, Barachenu b'baracha hamshuleshet hakutuva b'Torah, v'amura mipi kohanim am kodoshecha ka'amur. Yivarechacha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And on page 246.
Shalom, shalom.
We conclude our tefillah with quiet prayer, either with the prayer on page 248, the traditional prayer, or with the prayer in our own hearts. Please be seated. People sometimes ask me, what's it like to live in England? On Yom Kippur, we try to remove ourselves from the world as much as possible. By abstaining from food or drink, not anointing ourselves, not engaging in intimacy and more, we focus less on the physical and more on the spiritual part of ourselves. We spend much of the day standing, just as angels stand in the presence of God. We say out loud the line, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed, words that, according to Midrash, Moses overheard the angels singing, and which we whisper on all other times of the year. Only today do we say that line out loud, just like the angels. The book of Psalms says of human beings that God made us a little lower than angels. We do have advantages over angels. We have free will where they do not. We move around where they stay entranced in the presence of God. We can atone where they cannot. Nonetheless, angels are considered to be far more elevated spiritually. They live in the presence of God, after all. Biblical and rabbinic theology holds by what became known as the great chain of being. In that model, God is the highest, then angels, then humanity, separated into higher man and lower woman, and then the animals, and then at the bottom of the chain, the non-sentient elements of creation. On Yom Kippur, we traditionally try to unchain ourselves from the earth and try to climb up that great chain of being. to draw us as close to God as possible. And that, it turns out, perpetuates an enormous problem with global consequences. With few exceptions, Jewish spirituality, especially since Rabbinic Judaism started, has tended to be ethereal and otherworldly. At least in the Bible, spirituality was connected with the cycles of the earth, with harvest and rain, with animal sacrifices, with letting the land rest as God rested. Once we move into the time of the Mishnah and Talmud, though, and concepts of an afterlife come into Judaism, Jewish spirituality immediately became otherworldly. While the body was still considered a gift from God that must be cared for, rabbinic thought developed and adopted the idea that eventually the body dies while the soul has potential to live on. The focus of Jewish spirituality shifted dramatically away from this world. This world is like a hallway into the world beyond, writes Rabbi Yaakov in Pirkei Avot. Prepare yourself, he says, in the hallway to enter the banquet hall. Of course, this world remained the place where we relate to God, where we perform mitzvot, but the ultimate reality was no longer this one. It was in another realm. Jewish spirituality became focused outside this world. Physicality and spirituality separated. The Bible encourages us to look down the great chain of being. The book of Proverbs, for example, encourages the lazy person to look down and learn from the ant who busily stores and gathers food. Talmud certainly states that were Torah not given, we would have learned its main principles from the animals, such as modesty from the cat, apparently, learning not stealing from the ant, learning modesty from the dove, and decent manners from the rooster. Nonetheless, the rabbinic gaze is definitely up, away from this world. Up is seen to be good. Up brings us closer to heaven. Down became seen to be bad. Down brings us closer to Sheol and Gehinnom. This world is full of positives and negatives. Whereas Rav teaches the world to come is not like this world. In the world to come, there is no eating, no drinking, no procreation, no business negotiations, no jealousy, no hatred, and no competition. But rather, the righteous sit with crowns upon their heads, enjoying the splendor of the divine presence. True joy, everlasting joy, is therefore seen as not in this world. There is no eternity here, only death and decay. From where do you come? Asks Akavya ben Mahalalel. From a putrid drop, he says. And where are you going? To a place of dust, of worms and of maggots. Before whom are you destined to give an account and reckoning? Before the King above the King of Kings, the Holy Blessed One. Added to the focus away from this world, the rabbis cemented the philosophy, not just that the rest of nature is lesser than human beings, but that it only exists for human beings. When commenting on Noah's flood, the Talmud asks why the animals were destroyed because of the sins of human beings. The reply given is a parable in which a king prepares a banquet for his son, who subsequently dies. So the king breaks up the feast. And similarly, says the Talmud, similarly with the flood, teaches Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha, God says, now that humanity has sinned, what need have I for the animals and beasts? That kind of attitude of nature, existing only for human beings, naturally led hundreds of years later to Nachmanides, the medieval biblical commentator, interpreting the biblical verse that says that human beings shall have dominion over all the creatures and over all the earth, as permission to rule vigorously over them, like the rule of a master over a servant. And he even goes so far as to say that this verse indicates that we have the right to rule over the earth itself, to uproot and to pull down, to dig and hew out copper and iron. And so we went from learning from nature to exploiting it, however violently we want, because it only exists for our purposes. The seeds for this separation from the earth were laid in the Bible, which made a distinction between domesticated and wild animals. Only in the Messianic age, it says, are wild animals no longer a threat, just like in the idyllic existence of Eden. In the traditional Jewish mindset, nature is separate to humanity, and in its rawest form is a threat to humanity. It is different ontologically on the great chain of being. Nature exists for humanity, but when humanity sins against God, nature is used as a tool to harm and punish humanity. We, therefore, are not natural. We exist somewhere between the natural and the supernatural. Animals, it is said, only have a yetzer hara, an animal inclination. Angels only have a yetzer hatov, a lofty inclination. And it is only humans who have both, and thus have free will. And so our received Jewish tradition sets a choice before us: lower ourselves by behaving like animals, or elevate ourselves by behaving like angels. We aim for the latter. So we aim to remove ourselves morally from nature, and ultimately, we aim to escape it in the world to come. The emancipation from nature becomes even more problematic when we realize that the Hebrew for earth, Adamah, is feminine. In biblical and rabbinic thought, God is the male deity above, usually called Adonai, meaning my Lord, while the earth is the female presence below, from whom we need to distance ourselves, or whose body we may violently plunder and use however we wish. Our tradition's structural violence against women is the same as its structural violence against the earth, and we cannot deconstruct one without deconstructing the other. In chapter 2 of Genesis, the Bible clearly assigns us to be stewards over the earth, la'ovda u'l'shomra, to serve it and to preserve it. We are separate from the earth, but we have a duty to protect it. And so the Bible is environmental, but it is absolutely not ecological. Environmentalism means protecting that which is threatened within the existing socio-economic structures. And the Bible is actually very environmental. We are told that within a siege we cannot chop down fruit trees. We are told to give the land rest in the sabbatical and jubilee years. We are told to protect animals. We are, according to that perspective, separate from the earth, but we absolutely must take care of it. Seeing divinity in the earth, though, is absolutely forbidden, which is why the ancient Israelites are told to burn the sacred groves of other nations. There is sacred time in Judaism, but the only sacred space is man-made, such as the tabernacle or the temple. That is one of the core reasons, in fact, why Judaism survived expulsion after expulsion, because our attachment to the land that we had been expelled from was already tenuous. But wherever we were still able to observe sacred time. Yom Kippur is the ultimate sacred time, the Sabbath of Sabbaths, as it is often called. We celebrate it by denying space, by denying the world around us, by shutting ourselves off from the natural world in every way possible, including traditionally shutting ourselves indoors for an entire day, as opposed to the ancient Mishnaic custom of celebrating Yom Kippur afternoon matchmaking in the vineyards. So after we leave the world for a day, or try to, how do we return to the world? Do we return to plundering it for our own benefit? Do we return to imagining that we are stewards of all the other species on Earth, despite the fact that not only do we not even know all the other species on Earth, but we can't even responsibly steward ourselves? Are we really going to return to the mindset of the great chain of being? Or instead of being environmental, which is a top-down approach, could our Judaism be more ecological? Could our Judaism more accurately reflect the interdependence of all living beings, including humanity? Or is Judaism so embedded in hierarchy that to make it ecological would make it essentially un-Jewish? This, I believe, is one of the most important questions of our time. Our Western society exists due to exploitation, which means that our Jewish community exists due to exploitation. We exist on land that was taken by force or by deception from those who previously lived here. We all but steal resources from poor, usually non-white communities around the world who are forced to sell their wares by a globalized economic system that favors rich countries that set it up. Once we consume those resources, we then export our waste back to those communities under the guise of recycling, where most of it actually ends up in landfill. And that which is recycled is done so in ways that pollute the local areas in the process. In Talmud, we learn that the pious ones of old used to hide their splinters of wood and shards of glass and bury them 3 handsbreadths beneath the surface of the fields so that they would not impede the progress of the plough. Rav Sheshet, says Talmud, used to throw them into the fire. Rava threw them in a river. They did what we still do: out of sight, out of mind. In response to this, Rabbi Judah said, a person who wants to be pious should attend to matters of liability. We are liable. There is no such thing, ecologically speaking, of throwing something away, because there is no away. All waste goes somewhere. And in our society, our waste invariably goes to faraway places where it pollutes the land and the water and poisons the global poor. That we can do this comes from the mindset of domination, of hierarchy, and the false elevation of humans as stewards of creation. The book of Ecclesiastes mocks the idea of stewardship, saying, surely the fate of human beings is like that of the animals. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so dies the other. All have the same breath. Humans have no advantage over animals. That's ecology. An authentic ecological Judaism is therefore possible, even if it was not the majority position in the Bible or in rabbinic literature. So if an authentic ecological Judaism is possible, but we continue to maintain an environmental Judaism that supports hierarchy and domination and merely tries to address issues as they arise, if our environmental Judaism does nothing but patch up the cracks in the system that supports us, how morally good are we? Can our atonement ever be accepted if it is embedded in such a system? Is our atonement environmental, in that it covers over the small things while refusing to address systemic change? Is the assumption at the end of the day that our atonement has been granted, is that merely the self-congratulations of the oppressor who fails to hear the cries of the oppressed? The root letters for Kippur means to cover over, just like the pious ones of old used to cover over their waste with enough soil that it wouldn't affect the plough. But that isn't getting rid of sins. That isn't changing anything. That's merely hiding them from view while they pollute the moral soil below. So can our atonement be ecological? That is, can it help us reconnect to the world and its inhabitants in a totally different way? I believe not only that it can be, but that it must be, if Judaism is to transform and to remain relevant in the 21st century. That doesn't mean that we have to start creating sacred groves or worshipping nature, but it does mean that we can and must change our relationship with the natural world, with God's creation around us. In Torah, we learn that the rainbow is a sign of God's covenant. In Talmud, we learn from an Ezekiel verse that the rainbow is like the glory of God, so one should never look at it. In fact, Talmud tells us that one who looks at a rainbow deserves never to have come into this world. That's stated even though earlier in Talmud that when we see a rainbow we should recite a blessing. In the Kiddush Levana ritual of blessing the moon, a ritual that can only be performed when one sees the moon, the custom is to glance up at the moon at the beginning of the ritual and then not to look up again. And that is because the moon represents the house of David, so looking at the moon when it is not full implies diminishment of the Jewish people. What's going on here? How are we ritualizing looking at nature, but simultaneously banning ourselves from looking at nature? To bless the new moon at the proper time is like greeting the divine presence, says Talmud. But we're not supposed to look at it while we do it. If all of nature is like the divine presence, are we meant to just not look at anything other than Torah? Perhaps that is why we read in Pirkei Avot that one who interrupts their study and proclaims how beautiful a nearby tree is considered to have harmed their soul. In that mindset, God is found only in Torah and in Talmud, in the page, in words, not in reality. And that has to change. We don't bow to nature. We don't worship nature. But we should be able to look at it and proclaim the beauty of God's creation through it. When we look at nature, really look at nature, we see what is harming nature, and then we work to reduce that harm. The text, known as Perek Shirah, lists the different songs of all the elements of creation that call out constantly. Maybe the divine call that I referred to last night isn't just God's call to us to pursue justice. Maybe it's also the call of all creation, singing praise of God. It calls to us constantly and can draw us closer to God. Returning to the world, having a more ecological Judaism might perhaps mean bringing the experience of nature into our own spirituality as much as the experience of our textual tradition. Cutting down trees and finding God in their shredded corpses, but not finding God in those trees while they're alive, is nonsensical. Our living textual tradition is essential, but so is the living earth which God created. Our textual tradition says we are above, separate from nature. A walk in the woods tells us that we are not. And an authentic modern Judaism needs to hold both of those to be true. This Yom Kippur, then, let us return to the world. Let our atonement change the way we view the world and interact with the world. Let us leave the service with a differing perspective on the world around us as to what we had when we came into the service. Let our atonement be structural, not piecemeal. Let us acknowledge not only the sins of ourselves, but also of our society from which we benefit. Let us atone for addressing only the smallest sins so that we could continue to benefit from the greatest. Let us hear the call of nature and find God in it. Let us find God in our texts and in nature that surrounds us. And let us transform ourselves, our community, and our society so that we may live with all creation in harmony and in peace. And let us say, Amen. We turn to page 252, page 252. As we open the ark, we invite you to rise as you are able for Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu, Va'al Olaleinu V'Tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Deve V'Cherev V'Ra'av Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Kol Tzar Umastin Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kotvenu B'Sefer Chayim Tovi. Avinu Malkeinu, Kadesh Aleinu Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Malei Yadeinu Mibirchotecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Harem Keren Meshichecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Na'al Teshivenu Rekam Melfanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Kabel Barachamim V'Ratzon Et Tefilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Asei Imanu Lama'an Shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Asei Lamanacha Imlo Lama'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Ein Lanu Melech Ela Ata. Avinu Malkeinu, Patach Sha'arei Shamayim L'Tefilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu, Chus V'Rachem Aleinu.
Avinu
255, page 255. We invite up those who are carrying Torah scrolls to please come and do so as our Torah service starts on page 255.
En kamocha v'Elohim Adonai ve'en kemasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai Adonai varech et amo v'shalom. Avarahanim heitiva virtzonecha et Zion. Tivnehot Yerushalayim. Tivnehot Yerushalayim. Kivecha levad batahnu. Melech elam denisa Adon olamim.
On 256, Adonai, Adonai, God compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, showing mercy to the 1000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon. Page 257, we invite you to remain standing as we process our scrolls around the community. Please be seated. You can find our Torah reading. The blessings for the Torah are on page 258. The reading itself is a number of pages on page 266. Page 266, starting with Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. Tamod, Tamod, Miriam Devorah bat Mendel Verina, Likriyat HaTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah.
Adonai hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen. כי יבוא עליך כל הדברים האלה, הברכה והקללה אשר נתתי לפניך, והשבות אל לבבך בכל הגויים אשר הדיחך. אדוני אלוהיך שמע ושבת עד אדוני אלוהיך ושמעת בקולו ככל אשר אנוכי מצווך היום אתה ובניך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך. ושאדוני אלוהיך את שבותך ורחמך ושב וקיבצך מכל העמים אשר הפיצך. אדוני אלוהיך שמע אם יהיה נדיחך בקצה השמיים, משם יקיבצך אדוני אלוהיך, ומשם ייקחך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Our second aliyah, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 5 to 8. Yamod Ephraim ben Shaul ve'Esther lekriyat haTorah.
Baruch et Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Behebiacha Adonai Elohecha el haaretz asher yarshu avotecha berishta veitivcha v'hirbecha me'avotecha umal Adonai Elohecha et levavecha v'et levav zarecha Le'ahava et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha le'ma'an hayecha. V'natan Adonai Elohecha et kol ha'alot ha'ele al ohevecha v'yasonecha asher edafucha. Ve'ata tashuv v'shamata b'kol Adonai ועשית את כל מצוותיו, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Our third aliyah, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 9 to 12. Tamod, Tamod, Hechazan, Sarah Eliana bat Barachia, Lekriyat HaTorah.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
V'hotircha Adonai Elohecha bechol maseh yadecha b'fri b'tincha ובפרי בהמתך ובפרי אדמתך לטובה כי ישוב אדוני לסוס עליך לטוב כאשר שש על אבותיך כי תשמע בקול אדוני אלוהיך, לשמור מצוותיו וחוקותיו הכתובה בספר התורה הזה. כי תשוב אל אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך, כי המצווה הזאת אשר אנוכי מצווך היום לא נפלאתי ממך ולא רחוקה היא לא בשמיים היא לאמור מי יעלה לנו השמיימה ויקח לנו וישמיענו אותה ונעשנה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת בחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Our fourth aliyah, also to be chanted for us by Cantor Liana, is verses 13 to 17. This is really where we get into the idea of choice. This whole parasha is really this whole section is talking about the choice. All life is a choice. It's a basic tenet of Judaism that all our choices have consequences. Verse 13 to 17.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. V'lo me'ever layam hi le'mor mi'avor lanu el ever hayam vayikakeh lanu v'yashminu otah v'nasena ki karov elecha hadavar me'od b'ficha u'b'levavecha la'asoto re'ei natati lefanecha hayom et hachayim v'et hatov v'et hamavet v'et hara asher anochi mitzavcha hayom lahava et Adonai Elohecha ללכת בדרכיו ולשמור מצוותיו וחוקותיו ומשפטיו, וחיית ורבית, וברכך אדוני אלוהיך בארץ אשר אתה ושמה לבישה, ומפני לבבך ולא תשמע, ונידחת והשתחווית לאלוהים אחרים ועבדתם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Final Aliyah, verses 18 to 20, calls heaven and earth to witness against us. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 18 to 20. Yamod, Yamod, Malachi ben Rivka, Lekriyat HaTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Havorach.
Baruch Adonai Havorach.
Baruch ata Adonai Havorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'hayei olam. No. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai.
Amen.
Yeah. He got it. Lechem hayom ki avot tovedun lo tarichun yamim al ha'adama asher ata over et haradein lavo shama lo ishta hayidoti hayom et hashamayim vet haaretz hachayim v'hamavet החיים והמוות נתתי לבניך, הברכה וקללה, ובחרת בחיים, למען תחיה אתה וזרעך. לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך, לשמוע בקולו, לדבק בו, כי הוא חייך באורך ימיך, לשבת על אדמה, אשר נשבעת אדוני לאבותיך לברכה, לשבט ליצחק ויעקב לתת לכם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We turn to page 273 in our Machzor. Page 273. As we think of those within our community and outside our community in need of healing at this time. In the middle of page 273. pray in particular at this time for support, healing, and for comfort to Susan Kaplan, Marsha Berg, Joyce Weiser, Barbara May, Jane Buxbell, Gail Kaufman-Craven, Jane Hochberg, Jan Simonov, Carlos Villarreal, Frank Remmert, Carrie Weiss, Ellen Lowenberg, Carol Rudman, Carl Stalmacher, and Gary Polkowitz, as well as to Sophie Hochberg-Farah, Ori Neer, James Hetherington, Sandra Levine, Martha Ramirez, Kerry Lee Sheehan, Jeff Smith, Kathy Romero, Marsha Landry, Emily Wisniewski-Dowell, Jerry Steinberg, Carmen Rodriguez, and Jerry Nuri Home. And we invite you to share out loud the names of anyone whom you know is in need of healing, support, and comfort at this time. Baruch atah Adonai, Rafei HaCholim. We wish Refuah Shlema, complete and total healing, to all those whom we have mentioned and to all those whom we hold in our hearts. Please rise as you are able.
Bizot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei Yisrael al pi Adonai ve'ad Moshe al shlosha devarim al shlosha devarim al shlosha devarim
Please be seated.
Haftarah of morning of Yom Kippur is from the book of Isaiah. The blessing before the Haftarah is on page 275, and I'll start on verse 9 on page 278. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nviim tovim, v'ratza v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'torah, uv Moshe avdo, uv Yisrael amo, uv v'nviei haemet v'tzedek. Az tikra Adonai yaneh teshava v'yomar hineni im tasir mitochecha mota sholach etzba v'daber aven v'tafek l'raev nafshecha v'nefesh nana tizbiya v'zarach b'choshech orecha v'afelatacha katzorayim uvachacha Adonai tamid והשביע בצחצחות נפשך, ועצמותיך יחליץ, והיית כגן רבה, וכמוצא מים, אשר לא יכזבו מימיו. ובנו ממך ערבות עולם, מוסדי דור ודור תקומם, וקורא לך גודר פרץ, משובב נתיבות לשבת, אם תשיב משבת לרגליך, עשות חפציך ביום קודשי, וקראת לשבת עונג, לקדוש אדוני מכובד, וכיבדתו מסעות דרכיך, ממצוא חפצך ודבר דבר. אז תתענג על אדוני, ויקרבתיך על בהמי הארץ, ואכלתיך נחלת יעקב אביך, כי פי אדוני דיבר. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות. היה לנאמן האומר ויעשה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מבריך, אך לא ישוב ריקם. כי המלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, היה לנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי הבאת חיינו, ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני, משמח ציון בבניך. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו. על כיסא לא ישב זר ולא ינחלו את אחרים את כבודו. כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד. על התורה ועל עבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום הכיפורים הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, למחילה ולסליחה ולקח ברא לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך, ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מוחל וסולח לעוונותינו ולעוונות עמו בית ישראל, ומעביר אשמותינו בכל שנה ושנה. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל ביום הכיפורים.
Amen. Yeshikach. We turn to page 284 for a prayer for our congregation.
Eternal Presence, who blessed our mothers and fathers, bless this holy congregation, a house of study, prayer, and righteous deeds. Together we give thanks for our leaders, those who learn, teach, and uphold the Torah, inspiring others to learn, teach, and uphold the Torah. Those who do the sacred work of building our community, may their service bring them joy, fulfillment, and purpose, and may they go from strength to strength. For our members, diverse in age, interest, and background, Jews by birth, Jews by choice, and those of other faiths who join with us, all who offer their time and talent, their love and commitment. For all who come here on this holy day of Yom Kippur to share the search for meaning and renewal, your presence is a blessing, your friendship a gift. May the spirit of peace, dignity, and respect live within these walls, inspiring us to care for one another with compassion. And may we be a source of goodness, light, and healing for the world. May the one who blessed the generations before us bless us as we stand together this day, one congregation joined with all Jewish communities of the world through our prayers on this Day of Atonement. Let us renew ourselves for the year ahead. Let us honor the precious legacy that is ours.
We turn to page 290, page 290. We invite you to rise as we open our ark and return our scroll to the ark. Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki nishgav shemo levado. Standing as we turn to page 296. Page 296. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence. And when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong.
Ashamnu, Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Bagadnu, Gazanu, Gazanu, Dibarno Dofi, Dibarno Dofi, Hevinu, Hevinu, Vahirshanu, Zadnu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Hamasnu, Tafanu Sheker, Tafanu Sheker, Yahatsnura, Yahatsnura, Kizavnu, Kizavnu, Lahatsnu, Lahatsnu, Maradnu, Maradnu, Nihatsnu, Nihatsnu, Saranu, Saranu, Avinu, Avinu, Kishinu Ore. Rashanu.
Rashanu.
Shichatnu.
Shichatnu.
Tihavnu.
Tihavnu.
Tahinu.
Tahinu.
Titanu.
We remain standing as we turn to page 300. For these sins, O God, we ask forgiveness. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, under duress and by choice. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, consciously and unconsciously. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through our thoughtlessness. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through impulsive acts of malice. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by abusing our power. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through disrespect to parents and teachers. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by giving in to our hostile impulses. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through inflexibility and stubbornness. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through lies and deceit. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by making light of serious matters. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, in our routine conversations. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through envy. Continue on 304. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, openly and secretly. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by hating without cause. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by losing self-control. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through consumption of food and drink. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through sexual immorality. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by hardening our hearts. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through greed and exploitation. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through dishonesty in business. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through our innermost thoughts. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through gossip and rumor. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by offering or accepting bribes. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by profaning your name in public. Please be seated. I'd like to invite up our co-presidents, Lisa and Michelle, who are going to share some quick announcements. Quick announcements. Quick.
I'll be super quick because that's how I usually like things. Thank you so much to everyone who's already donated to High Holiday Appeal, and we look forward to hopefully more people participating because we have lots of good projects. Thank you, Dan Pava, and the Buildings and Grounds.
No. So it's been 3 years since we've had in-person services, so our timing is rather off today. What I can tell you is that our Yom Kippur dialogues will be starting in person and on Zoom in 5 minutes or so at 1 o'clock, and then it was meant to start at 12:15. But where are you going to go anyway? For those who do need to head out, we have summaries of the sermons from the High Holy Days that are available for you to take. For those who are staying, who want some quiet reflection meditation, we have packs for you. They're called study packs, which contain most, although I realize not all, my apologies, not all of the High Holy Day liturgy that was written by our members over the last 3 years. So we will have a flexible time, but we will definitely still end Yom Kippur at 7:20. We will move things around in between. I'm not sure yet. So we end our service, we conclude our morning service. On the back of your sheets, we return.